Hello and welcome to my wild knitting. This is a knit and chat. We're gonna sit by the fire and we're gonna just knit and have a little chatty. And I just panicked. I was like, oh my gosh, she got my sweater and she destroyed it. But come on. What I cannot really excuse is bigger designers that have a huge audience and a huge reach that are not size inclusive and they are not even making the effort to write it in the pattern page. I'm a little bit reluctant to compare my body too much to others. I'm getting upset now. Nature is full of different type of sizes, colors and scents. It's difficult because it's charged with history of oppression, but it doesn't mean that we can't explore or ask questions and explore different ways of seeing things. Here, because it goes. The more I follow my flow and my joy, as I mentioned before, the more I am true to myself.
But we should have more of these Q&A situations, right?
I asked over Instagram if anyone had a topic they wanted me to talk about or questions that I could, answer. And people did. So thank you so much to everyone who submitted some questions. I asked it already by the end of January. So I'm a little bit late to this, but yeah, we're gonna cover different topics. I don't know if I'll be able to reply to all of the questions, but I'm gonna try to be efficient. So I'm knitting on a project. I actually brought 3 projects here. This is the Tulip Pullover by Melody Hoffman. I'm knitting it in this beautiful dark green color, and I kind of stopped knitting on it for the past 5 days because Mita, my dog, chewed on the yarn. One day I woke up and she came to greet me and she had a lot of fibers, this around her mouth, and I just panicked. I was like, oh my gosh, she got my sweater and she destroyed it. I ran into the living room where we have our stuff and where we usually hang out, and the project was here. Fortunately, she didn't really chew on the sweater itself. She just started to destroy the skein or this ball of yarn, but fortunately she didn't damage too much. And the nice thing about the yarn I'm using is Nutiden. It's an unspun yarn. Is that you can easily reconnect it or fix problems such as that. So I'm very grateful she didn't attack my sweater project. So I didn't pick this project because I had to deal with the yarn, and yeah, I had other projects to get entertained with, I would say. So I'm gonna knit a little bit on this and that, we'll see. I have also some socks and a scarf I'm knitting on. So let's start with the questions. Let's see. How do you handle performance anxiety? That's interesting. I would say it really depends what type of performance. Like if I have to hold a speech in front of a huge audience, I'm gonna get very stressed and anxious. But my mom taught me a little trick when I was in school and I would get very stressed to speak in front of the class or something. She told me, imagine that your audience is naked, sitting on a toilet doing, number 1, number 2. And that actually helped. I mean, yeah, it helped because it kind of puts your audience into a vulnerable space, and you understand that people don't have so much power on you, or like everyone is human and you don't have to be perfect. And so that's kind of the trick, I would say, if you have to speak in front of a lot of people. But if you just have to, I don't know, present a project in front of a camera or talk in front of a camera, if I'm recording myself, I'm just talking in front of myself, and that happens constantly, meaning like I can talk by myself here and there, you know, and like explore topics and things. It actually really helps me to understand maybe a situation, to kind of speak out loud, I would say. But I think every person is different. I guess my main suggestion is to, yeah, remember that people have their insecurities. No one is perfect, and even if they are, it's boring if people are absolutely perfect and have their shit together all the time. So just try to be yourself, try to have fun, and also maybe say to your audience, I'm very nervous, help me out here, or like, please excuse if I'll make a lot of mistakes, or I'll get super, I don't know, mumbling something, I don't know. But yeah, to try to be honest with your audience, and then people will relate to you, and they will have a lot of compassion most of the time. Okay, next question. What lesson your knitting taught you? I think the main lesson my knitting taught me is to be patient, first of all, because, you know, it takes a lot of time to knit and to finish a project. Whatever project we're talking about is a lot slower than, I don't know, buying the same type of object. I think what I realized in the past year is that in my knitting practices and crafts and creative processes, I want to follow joy as much as possible. Meaning, if a project doesn't bring me joy, I don't want to work on it. I'll wait and I'll put those energies on hold, and I'll work on something else. That's something that I think knitting taught me, and maybe it's one of the most important things in life, to follow your joy. It's not always easy because, you know, we have responsibilities and things that we have to finish and do. But yeah, when it comes to hobbies and crafts, I think we should always follow what we like, and we should always follow joy. So that's, I guess, the main lesson I learned. Your favorite kind of video to film for YouTube? I think it really depends. I'm a very seasonal being. I realize that the more I follow my flow and my joy, as I mentioned before, the more I am true to myself. It sounds very abstract, but like what I'm trying to say is that sometimes I have so much, you know, these urges of creativity where I want to really create and do, and I have so much energies, and some days I don't, and that, I think, kind of reflects on my choices of what to film, I guess. I really love to create the season stories. Talking about seasons, I decided to create this little kind of playlist where I create these little videos about a specific season. So I've done autumn stories and winter stories, and there are these little videos and are about like anything, you know, it can be like lifestyle and, you know, projects that I'm knitting for that specific season or for that specific time. And they're very like a bit like vlogs, but they're, I think, a little bit more creative for me because maybe there is a little bit of poetry in it, like visual poetry, I would say. Am I clear? So I guess the season stories type of video are very inspiring for me to create. I get a lot of inspiration, but I also love to record podcast episodes. Those are a lot easier because I just sit and show you what I've made, or this type of videos when I just sit and chat. I guess that's those are very kind of, they're easier, at least in terms of editing and filming. But yeah, I guess it goes really with the cycles of my life. And also with the cycle of, my cycle. As a woman, I am a cyclical being. And everyone can be a cyclical being. You don't have to be a woman. But I think my biology also influences the way I work or approach my craft. So thank you so much, though, to ask me that question. How have you been lately? I love you. I love you too. This is Ali, my friend. Ali, I have been a bit stuck. I think November, December, and I would say, no, January was pretty a month of moving forward, but November and December, my goodness, I was in a rut. I was so stuck and feeling so drained. But that's also a season of life that I'm learning to go through, because I will always personally have times where I'm 100% and times where I'm like 2%. And also I'm learning to honor the times and respect the times I'm low, and not identify with any of my energies, just let them pass through. So if I'm tired and feeling like depressed and sad, I just try to not identify with that and not saying I am like that, but be more like, I feel like this, and tomorrow I will feel another way, and everything passes. But it's hard, and it has been a bit I think also this place doesn't really help. This apartment is full of mold, it's cold. This is saving us. It's pretty warm, but yeah, now I'm feeling better. In the beginning of January also, I decided to put more energies into taking care of my physical self, like moving more, going out with the puppies, taking long walks. That boosted my emotional and mental energies as well. So January started to bring fresh air. Thank you for asking this question. Okay, it's a few days after the last clips you've watched. I took a break, so we're gonna answer, talk about some things. Yeah, the first topic is gonna be size inclusivity, because this person, thank you so much for asking me to talk about this, wrote me thoughts on size inclusion in knitting patterns. I'm going to knit on a pair of socks.
When did you start knitting on this?
These are my knit walking project. So when we go out and take hikes and walk, I like to knit on like smaller projects like socks. I think I started it like a week ago.
Yeah, I remember this pattern a bit, I think.
But it's been so cold, so I can't really knit walk so much.
Yeah, but now it's warm today. It was so
today
nice.
Was so nice.
My goodness, Italy is so good sometimes.
So let's talk about this topic, size inclusivity. For me, it's very important, together with sustainability. it's a very important topic to address, and I haven't really done it so much. I mentioned some designers that I really love and want to support and have been knitting from their patterns, or knitting their patterns that are very size inclusive, such as James and Watts, Jessie Maid Design, Park Williams. I really love those designers because they're very size inclusive, and it's very important for me to, let the world know that there are designers that understand and acknowledge that there are so many different type of bodies and sizes, right?
Yeah. But how many patterns would you say are size inclusive?
I think that nowadays, we are in 2023, designers are starting to slowly but surely including more sizes, a wider range of sizes.
I remember that you said that there were like, it's gonna be considered size inclusive if it has this range of size.
I think it's between 30 to 70 inches bust circumference. The more sizes, the better, because it's like, then we include more people, and like, for me, it's so boring if we think, and it's like an illusion if we think that there is an average body type. There isn't. Like, maybe that's what maybe a Western society, or like the culture, specific culture, wants us to believe, or a system wants us to believe, that there should be a standardized or a perfect body type. But for me, it's so outdated. It's not true. Like, it's not true. And that nature is based on biodiversity, is based on diversity. We all have different bodies. We are nature. So like, knitting is a craft that we like explore to create things that fit us, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have the ability to create something that fits my body, and not vice versa, that I have to fit my body into a specific garment that I bought.
Yeah, but that's true for all clothes. Like,
Yeah,
even
but
if you buy it without knitting it, you still want to buy it for you. Like,
yeah,
it's gonna be the same
but the
directly.
main system,
Yeah.
and that's also tied into capitalism, or the market, the clothing and fashion industry is telling us, or has been for years, not maybe thousands of years, but hundreds of years, has been trying to make us fit into a type of clothing, a type of personality, a type of body, and like, we have to adapt to that, rather than the fashion industry, for example, adapting to different type of bodies. And it's so, I feel that it's so unskilled, and so like very, I don't know how to describe it, to create something for just one type of body. What I also think is that there are different type of designers with different type of audience. There are some designers they are like just starting to design some patterns, and maybe they are not yet understanding how to grade for different type of sizes, and they are trying to figure things out. So what they can do, and I think they're excused kind of, if they don't have like a wider range of sizes, they can just say like, I'm looking for a tester for bigger or smaller sizes than the ones that I'm including already.
Yeah.
Like in the pattern page, then it's clear that they are trying, But what I cannot really excuse is bigger designers that have a huge audience and a huge reach, that are not size inclusive, and they are not even making the effort to write it in the pattern page, like, oh, sorry, I didn't design this pattern for another size than the ones I include. Please contact me if you want to test it. I can send you the pattern and we could figure things out. Just that's enough for me. It's still a little bit outdated, because if you are a big designer, you should be able to grade a size, you know, like bigger sizes or smaller sizes. That's what designers should do, in my opinion, especially when that's your job. You know, if you do that as like a hobby. I mean, I've knitted patterns that weren't size inclusive at all, but maybe they put the pattern out for free. And so I'm like, okay, it's still not size inclusive, but I got it for free. And so, you know, they still did some work to kind of actually write it down, and then maybe I can figure things out, but I would like it to be size inclusive. But if you are a well-established designer, I'm getting upset now. You know, like it shouldn't be. Yeah, you should absolutely, definitely write that.
But I can see how it's like, if you're just a small designer and you're like, oh, I made this shirt and I want to share it with other people. Imagine, like, it just seems pretty boring to make lots of sizes that you don't even really care so much about, like for yourself, so that you still have to put all that energy if you're a small designer
but
to make 15 more
But that's
sizes.
why you become a designer. You make a pattern not to fit only your body. You make a pattern so others can reproduce it. So it has to be for many other people. But I understand, as I mentioned before, if you're not able, or you don't want to put the effort to, or it's also like sometimes the problem is about reach, right? You don't have, because in the knitting world, it's also about testing those patterns. So even if you create maybe a pattern for a size that maybe you don't usually include, maybe you don't find the testers that can test that size, so you maybe don't feel comfortable to put it out there.
Yeah, so it's just math, like
so
at some point.
It's a lot of grading, it's a lot of math, and of course, but I mean,
the problem is, like, if you have patterns, will they come out in the right amount if it's a bit bigger? That's, I guess, where the problem comes in. Because if you have to do, now I'm just coming up with things, you have to do 6 type of stitches here, purling, then another type of stitch, the math becomes more difficult if it's gonna go even across the whole garment to make up a certain size. And that's where it becomes difficult, I guess, to see if everything will come together.
Yes, exactly. And like sometimes a designer, usually the way things work is that a designer knits, like writes down a pattern as they are knitting it, right? And then they see like, oh, let's find a gauge for this pattern. And then from that specific pattern that they create, they grade it. And I don't really know like the math that goes with it, because I'm not really so good with that.
I think it can be pretty difficult.
It is difficult, but there are, for example, courses on grading, I've heard, and I would like to do it. There are designers that are so established that they have been designing patterns for 10 plus years, and they know exactly what that means. They have a huge range of people. They have social medias that they can just write, oh, I'm asking for testers for this size, you know, and then they gather all of these testers, they send out the patterns, and the testers say like, oh, I found out that here there's a problem with this stitch, or there's a problem with this size.
I mean, I'm getting a headache, to be honest. I'm thinking about making all of those sizes.
No, because it's all about grading.
I can understand if some pattern makers don't make all the patterns from scratch, because that sounds actually really a lot of work.
But it's not all the patterns. Is sometimes you even use kind of applications that do it for you.
Yeah, but can they?
Yeah,
I mean, I can tell you that it's not going to be that easy every time that the application can just put like pattern in, pattern sizes out. I think it's going to be a bit difficult sometimes.
That's why you can just say it. For me, like, I still don't excuse it. I excuse it for smaller designers, as I mentioned it. But if you
Yeah.
are a big maker, this is their job. It's like you
That's true.
are coding something and like you don't know the basic of HTML. Like, do you
Yeah.
understand? It's kind of like at the
Yeah.
base, like knowing how
I mean,
to grade.
I can really see the parallel with translations. Like, if you're making a website, then it's like, how many languages will you include?
Languages sometimes are optional. Like if you are creating a website for a restaurant down the corner, you
Yeah.
almost don't need it in all languages.
No, but if you make like an application, that's always something that comes in. Like, there is always accessibility. It's also like
Yeah.
you can do
That's true.
like for blind people, how will they navigate this website, for example? Or those that can't see well, or those that can't
That's
like
true.
use the mouse in a good way. Like, there are this like high level of quality, basically, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But there aren't so many that I've worked with that do all of that. Like, it really costs a lot of money. That's, I think, the first problem. It takes a lot of energy, I think, to do everything right.
Yeah.
But in this case, like you said, the big designers, they should be doing it. Like, if you have, for example, the municipality website, they should be doing it.
Exactly.
Like, there are certain actors out there that should take all of this very seriously.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
But
it's
especially
like they're not
because-
serving their audience.
Especially because it's about bodies. Like when you create, one thing is to create a teddy bear. You can knit teddy bears, right?
Yeah.
Like that also can play a little bit with sizes and stuff. But when it comes to garment making, like it's about making garments for different bodies, you know?
Yeah.
Otherwise, like that's where's the point? Like then we're knitting for, I don't know, the chair. I don't know. It's about like cultural influences that criticize different type of bodies, or just not even criticize different type of body. They do that, but they just promote one type. It's just standardization. It's just like, this is a robot, you should look exactly like this. You know, this is a perfect body type, you should aspire to get there. I think it's patriarchy and capitalism. This culture, the Western society, capitalistic and patriarchal culture, has taught us to compare us to the other people. And then if you are different and you see someone that is different, you feel like, oh my God, it's something different, like alarm, and feel ashamed. Whereas there are cultures, even though are minority, like small cultures that are maybe not so promoted, there are saying everyone is different and everyone is celebrated the way they are.
I
And
agree
not
with
comparing different races, different body types, different, cultures.
Yeah.
We are taught through years of colonialism to see the other that looks different, the look,
But it seems
as something different. Children don't do that. Children,
they do.
No,
But
not so much.
it's competition. Like,
Okay, so we kind of went on a tangent that I cut, so you didn't see because, okay. But it's a really important, I think, topic to discuss and see like where it comes from, like the root cause of this kind of sense of shame, if we are like different, how we should behave with one another, and like where it comes from. I don't know. Now I'm just talking in a circle. But I think what we can also just touch upon and mention is this sense of like the privilege that comes from a person being a certain size. In this case, for example, I'm considered privileged because I can find most of the patterns that I can find have my size. I'm a little bit reluctant to compare my body too much to others. The concept of privilege in this case is created by comparison, and this culture that consider this specific size or my size as standard. I would like that we would consider standard size all of the sizes that can be included, and just see them as they are, like the body size. That's just an aspect. It's like judging, oh, I'm judging a poppy flower because it's red. Are we judging a sunflower because it's a sunflower, or because it's different than a poppy flower or than a orchid? No, we're just saying that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So we should rewrite that script in this culture. Nature is full of different type of sizes, colors, and scents. It's difficult because it's charged with history of oppression, but it doesn't mean that we can't, explore or ask questions and explore different ways of seeing things and liberating ourselves from that oppressive history.
That's beautiful. We're all different flowers, kind of.
I think we are.
But I was just thinking, would you make a knitting pattern for a sunflower as well?
I would love
Where
to.
do you draw the line here?
I would love to include sunflowers in one of my knitting patterns.
Maybe even for puppies.
Yeah, but I think it's really important to kind of challenge, if we can, and if we feel like safe enough to do so, to challenge the norm and to challenge the, what is considered standard or right or perfect. Let's just discuss about it. Let's just compare it to what the world actually is. So nature, okay, we are nature as well. So why do we have to compare in a way that is judgmental instead of in a way that is like filled with awe and, excitement and curiosity?
Well
We've been discussing this a lot. Been feeling heated up, like fired.
And I've been like going on some tangents sometimes.
I would love to have some, conversation, like kind and open conversation with some of you if you have any thoughts on this. So if you want to write what you think about this topic of size inclusivity, you can just drop comments. I would love to read them. Maybe I'll reply them if I feel I can add something interesting. And we could reply to more questions, but I think this is getting super long and I don't want to cut too much.
We're gonna cut all of this.
We're gonna cut a lot because but I had another question that I thought was really beautifully formulated, and we can be very quick in replying.
All right.
Where did you meet the honey and when? And the honey, I guess, is you.
It's me.
Yeah. So we can quickly reply to this question, not really go much into the details because we don't have the time.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And what I can say is that we met at the same time. we both met our honeys at the same time, and this honey, I met her in Spain. It was close to Pamplona in very alternative reality.
So we were both volunteering, working in this office.
Yeah.
And I was working as a support graphic designer, marketing helper, and you were working with IT.
Yeah, I started my IT journey there. Mm-hmm. But I really wanted to go to Spain because I'm from Sweden, right? I was like, I want to go to the sun, I want to make compost. That was like my main quest. And we went to find shit from animals
but how did
along
we
the
meet?
road to make compost from that.
Yeah, he was like the compost guy, the Swedish guy and the compost guy, like people called him both. But we stayed there like 9 months It was like a wall pregnancy, basically.
A pregnancy, I guess.
Like 9
you
months.
could measure it like that.
But I mean, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was special. That's what happened. So we met in Spain
Yeah.
6.5 years ago. But as you can see, my battery is running out.
Yeah.
So
But we should have more of these Q&A situations, right? And I would be the guest.
I'm a little bit like stressed when you're here
I'm
because
always
it
stressing
goes.
you out.
But
Yeah.
we will. If people want it, let us know if you want Mika to be
Yeah.
here and have like Q&A situation more. Thank you so much for joining me and for asking us all of these beautiful questions. There are many more that I would like to reply, and maybe next video I will. I didn't need so much, but we had the great discussions. So thank you so much, and thank you, Mika, for being here.
Yeah, and let's stay size inclusive out there, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.